They was mandates were the norm. Down there, they all dressed up. I knew I forgot. I was late. Like. So much for better.
It didn't last long.
I don't know. It was valuable, so I don't think it's slide. Next thing I see is the bag. Slow. So, it's a fair question.
Do you know what that is, Mike?
Yeah.
Somebody sure.
8 days. Be back in town or? Get Christmas card going?
Last time before.
First time I ever got pulled over on 3-wheeler.
Been on his way to my bus garage.
I'll be
County jail. We're running
Yeah.
mid to high 40s for inmates. Made $6,800 change from Genesee County. A little better down there. We have started a part-timer.
Starts Monday.
Starts Monday. We have a test coming up. Bodies in the door.
Discussion, hold act.
I'd probably like to explain a little bit what the Halt Act is. Change the way we can lock in inmates for misbehavior or anything. And they also came out and inspected the jail and told us we're gonna need to make changes, improvements to be able to lock people in. I'll leave it up to Mike.
Round two.
Okay, so a couple of you were here yesterday, and I hear somewhat the same spiel, but in March of this year, the 31st, a new law went into effect. It's called the Halt Act, and that is pretty much handcuffs any of us for jail administrators, either through the state or county, locking anybody in. Okay, for discipline, for mental health reasons, anything. We cannot lock anybody down for any disciplinary. Okay. That started March 31st. I had about a week's notice of what that law was going to entail. Same thing with the training. So Terry Moran and Ed Toby from the State Commission came out May, went through a review in the jail, and we don't have any housing areas that I can take and segregate and house separately any violent people, any violent inmates, any inmates that mental health wise, anything like that. I don't have the space. We looked at possibly renovating parts of the jail. There's just absolutely no way. And I'm going to invite any of you that weren't here yesterday. I would gladly love to take you through the jail and explain and show you why we cannot accomplish this. So what has come about is I worked with Mike and Greg, and we really need to add on to the jail. We're looking at 5 cells to be able to segregate assaulted, disruptive inmates away from the general population. These inmates have to be allowed out of their cell a minimum of 7 hours a day. They have to be allowed all the same programming that everybody else gets. So they are allowed to go to visitation, law library, any program that we offer, school, I cannot say no. Even though that they're disruptive, they're assaultive, we have to figure it out. And currently, I have 2 cells for the male population. I have 2 cells, which is the 2 infirmary cells. We have to take those inmates, if they're in their 2 holding area, for 7 hours out of the day for them to get their time out of their cell. I can't accomplish that. Like today, yesterday, we had state inmates coming, or state rights that got sentenced over to Judge Mohan's court, we're booking them in. Holdings didn't use constantly. And that's how 2 of my officers got assaulted and put out on 207C, where they're right now. They said they aren't coming back till at least October because we were moving a assaulted inmate, and he went. We struggled with him, moving him back and forth to the shower. So we need a spot for the male population. Female population, we kind of have a decent setup, but we need to construct a fenced-in area to split the female section. Okay, that is part of this. I'm looking at possibly adding 5 cells to the rear of the jail. Currently, there's we call it the bullpen. It's just a fenced-in area on the west side of the jail. And it's never been used. It's there for fire, in case we have a fire department out there. But we have to have an armed security around that because there's no razor wire on top. It was just like, I think it was an afterthought when the building was built. So that's what I'm looking at. It's also to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Currently, when we have a constant watch, which is either a medical, mental health, something like that, I could possibly, if it's laid out right, have 1 officer on 3 inmates that are in or some sort of a constant watch. Currently, I don't have that. Currently, it's a one-on-one in the infirmary, and the infirmary set up that you can't really see in and keep a good eye on the watch. One of the things that got brought up was James Cook brought up yesterday the possibility of housing these inmates out. I was talking to Dave about this because I went home and thought that's going to be very difficult to do because no other county jail runs a troubled inmate. It's hard enough now to get an SJO, which is a substitute jail order, to ship somebody out. We are receiving none of that because we take the Genesee County females. And if they're in trouble in my jail, I'll call the superintendent and say, you got to get them out of here, or get her out of here, which they do. They transferred a female 6 times and found a county jail in the Adirondacks to take her to because nobody wants. The old days just calling somebody up and say, hey, can you take my daughter and make sure those are gone because of this Hall Act. And we really need to do something for safety and security, not only of the inmates, but of the staff. You know, the injuries in my jail show that we have a problem. We are going to have to deal with a certain individual that is in Marcy right now. That person's going to come back. He's already put 2 of my officers out, along with costing the county around $6,000 or $8,000 in broken windows. So I need a secure area. These cells are going to have have a, like I referred to yesterday, a dog run area out in front of them. It's 25 square feet of a fenced area or so for them to be let out of that cell for up to 7 hours a day. But they will be separated from all the other inmates, safety and security. Mike, do you want to talk about
Space-wise, we're limited. The jail is very limited on anything we can do.
the footprint of the jail does not allow us currently, for the times that we're in, to allow for this. Extending the jail was engineered and designed to build up, heading to third story, but that's not feasible for the situation. So there's a space behind the jail, I think it's a 35 by 50 feet, that butts right up to the historian's building on that property. That's where we'd be looking to put this addition onto the jail. It's a pretty intensive addition though. There's a lot of electrical, HVAC, and plumbing to go into it. Each cell has to have its own facility. There's gonna be a shower, like a shared shower area for these 5 cells. And then possibly an officer's restroom on that end of that hallway. So it's a big project, it's something that's expensive, it can't be done in-house. But it's gotta be done sooner than later.
Like, didn't we say yesterday it's like 28 by 50?
So Mike's measurements were
30, I figured out it's like 37 by 57.
37.
Somewhere in there.
so that's the space, yes, I think is what, so
How would the architect?
exactly, that would be, I guess that's,
The only thing that I was trying to come around to was the cost estimate that we talked about yesterday.
it's very, I can't give an actual cost estimate, square footage estimate. You know, a house is 250 to 300 right now, square foot. Our smaller rotunda job was $1,100 a square foot. So that can kind of give you an example. We're dealing with a lot of concrete, steel, safety glass, stuff like that, and the plumbing, and it's all rate work. So we're going to be on the high end of that amount for sure. That is foam for the rooftop here. Actually, the Google shop must have been. There's nothing there right now. We stored items in the back lot there because there was a camera out back. So it's building materials. So that's
That's
the
fine.
Yep.
So during this process, and Mike helped was with me on the state team, and we did identify 2 other areas in the jail that could be looked at, but it is cost prohibitive. One of them is taking our current dorm area that we have, that we've used as a program area, which is needed, and put 2 cells in there. There's no way I could get more than 2 cells in that area. So we've taken away 6 beds, replacing with 2. Same thing with the upstairs rack. We looked at going up there, putting cells up there, cutting the rec room down to a quarter of the size of what it is. And again, I don't think I could get more than 3 cells up there, and they would not be laid out the way they should be. And then we'd have to place an officer up there away from everybody else. So if something happened, it would take a while to get the rest of the staff up the stairs and into the area. So, and there's very little room. There's a lot of work for sewage, water, electric to be completed, at least on the 2nd floor. So the best place is just to add on to the end of the jail hospital to do this. So again, I'm gonna extend my invitation out to each one of you. I talked to Joe earlier about getting a group of supervisors. If you want to come over as a group, I can go through and show you exactly why we can't make the alterations to what we have, and where we're at. I invite you to come over, and I'd love to show you what we got. So,
I'm afraid we're talking.
March 31st of 2022.
What do you do with these? What do you do with these inmates now, Mike?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have 2 inmates right now that could be separated or segregated in these housing areas. Because I know that they're storing other inmates. I know they're pushing up on them. We're turning a blind eye, and I hate to say that because I'm a pretty proud person of doing a good job. I've been doing this for almost 32 years, and for us to have to turn a blind eye and not do our job because I'm handcuffed, because we can't do it. That's,
I remember when we did build that too, we just talked that how we would ever expand it, do you remember that?
And it's designed to build a third story.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a little bit about this as we talked yesterday. What, I understand, you know, the static thing, put it on the floor. But given the fact that, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's cheaper to build up than it is to build out.
It could be, I mean, it's still a build, you're bringing everything,
Yeah, I know.
none of that stuff is in place, so it's.
Yeah.
the other thing we would have to do if we build up, we would definitely have to put in an elevator. Right?
I would imagine. It's, so, and we can look into both options.
Well, I'm just looking at it, you know, 20 years from now, what are you gonna do?
You know what, you're
Of
right.
course, with this cash, maybe nobody would be in jail anymore, and everybody.
You know, we're not, you know, when I first started, we were full. We had 60, 70 inmates all the time. There was one point, a few years, we housed inmates out because we were overfull. Bail reform, you know, we dropped down. Do I ever see us getting back to that point? No. But our housing, the way that our cells are set up now is just, it's not feasible. And yeah, I totally agree with you. We could build up, absolutely, to build what we need, but I don't see our jail getting that full, but who knows what 30 years is gonna bring from now.
I think we just really need an architect to come in and look at the place and look at it and can tell us, like, if we're 3 cells here, like, this is not knowing what they can do in the college.
But are the guys still in business? We had talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, we did, yeah, and we found a phone number for that company, we have our.
They did a nice job, you know, I mean, that thing was built there,
Yes, yeah.
state of the art, you know.
Yeah, and these people, that's what they do, they deal with secure facilities, they know the codes, secure facilities, and they know how to make it work, so it's money well spent to go with a firm such as that, and to give us a plan or
They were excellent.
give us options both directions.
The other thing that we need to really take into consideration, no matter what we do, we have to incorporate that Black Creek system, which means it's gonna be an upgrade to the whole system. I don't know what that costs will be.
Cost quite a bit, when we put it in.
Well, I'll tell you, the cost of, for next year's service agreement is outlandishly expensive.
So what do we need here? Do we need a motion to hire an architect, or what committee does that come from? What's the game plan?
It's professional service, so they're just permission to look into this at this point.
This committee, or
We're not looking to open a project yet or create a project of it without a figure, but I need to.
first thing you gotta do is get an architect.
That's it.
But there was a discussion yesterday in planning because of space allocation, but I don't believe that we had a motion yesterday to do anything other than what was going on. In my mind, appropriately, this committee would give you permission to move forward with some exploratory work.
That's how we've done it for 2 years now, so that's what we're looking for. It's gonna cost some money that may or not be there in the budget currently, but it's we've got a lot of pokers in a fire right now with a lot of projects going on, so we'll get the right people involved and get something designed that is gonna work for expanding even past what we need right now, but still cheap enough.
No, we can talk about it forever,
Yeah.
but one of these days, DOC's gonna come in and say, what are you doing here?
Well, and that, they contacted me like a month after this law went into effect and said, what are you doing? And why, I need some help, because, you know, I need some help.
I'll make a motion that this committee authorizes Mike to move ahead and contract with the architect, do a study, see what we can do, and come back with a proposal.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Berlin made the motion. All in favor?
I-
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you very much. And again, if anybody wants to come over and take a tour, let me know. I'd be happy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hey, Mike, I'll reach out to you later, because you know what, if we send an invitation out to the supervisors and just try to set something up, maybe we can get a group together, like between you and me.
Absolutely.
I think that they would be pretty up for that if we can just make the arrangements, tell everybody what it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do that later.
Sure thing.
We did that 3 or 4 years ago.
Where Joe Milne was having lunch.
Yeah. Dennis, yeah. Yep.
I probably could get Buzz and make all you guys.
Oh, gonna take him to a Rotary.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Next on the agenda is overnight travel for St. Paul to go to the 911 coordinators conference.
questions on that one? Need a motion.
I like that.
Ms. Roberts makes the motion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Schedule the jail for a tour, you should come upstairs and see 911.
That's usually the whole routine.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, David. Anybody else? Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Sylvia, to return, Brian couldn't be with us. Storm chasing.
Yes, unfortunately, Brian's with the weather service right now, so it's, you know, everybody is quick update. So I'm kind of unprepared, but I'll do my best here. So they're, as of about, I would say 40 minutes ago, radar indicated that there was a tornado touchdown. It was unconfirmed by the weather service, but they should be in location by now. They're working on the damage, they're gonna start working on the damage assessment, and they're working with DOT and the power companies and the 78. Few families were needed assistance by the Red Cross, so they're working on that. And there is no ETA on the power restoration right now. We don't know how many customers are out of service, but they're gonna try to work on an update for that number when they can get back.
Thank you. Thanks for the update. Sylvia, do you know if there will you, can you send that to me in an email so that I can share it with the supervisors?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Step number 1 is just for a grant application for Walmart stores.
We
Go ahead.
had a small grant with, it was a local community grant of Walmart stores. It's just permission to apply for that. It's a small amount to $150 to a maximum of $5,000. And that will be used, we're looking to update some equipment and possibly some AEDs.
Someone like to make a motion for that? Carol makes a motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Number 2 is just a man. Medical electronic patient care reports.
This is just a amended FYI revenue contract. We have it on the agenda to read effective July 1st to June 30th, 2023. And this is the actual contract reads that it renews annually. So we just want to amend the language on meeting minutes.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion. It's an FYI. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Number 3, position grade fail for deputy fire coordinator.
This would be a deputy fire coordinator position. Primary responsibilities would be to oversee the emergency response team. So that is anything to do with hazmat, rope rescue, ice rescue training. So right now we don't have anybody that goes up to the training center, inspects all the equipment and things like that. So they would do testing of all the equipment, do any maintenance, prepare training sessions, work on props for those specific emergency response teams. So we have the money in the budget to pay for this position through the rest of the year. We're just asking for a small increase in next year's budget for that deputy fire.
This is like for deputy fire coordinator.
That would be the source.
And is there an FTE that's associated with this, or is it just like a part-time and they do it when they do it? Whatever their duties are.
They do, so they, a lot of them just do it when there's a call, so if they go out and do that, but they also attend numerous trainings and stuff. When we do have like hazmat training, things like that, so this position would be on the schedule to test equipment when it was needed. And also go up and run like the hazmat, which we do monthly, and road rescue, and they go out and do special trainings for, Silver Lake and things like that. So they would be responsible for running and overseeing all the equipment and maintenance.
I'll call you later when it's not unfortunately the same.
Sure.
We'll just double
But
check.
that's not in your budget for this year.
No, we have some money that, because the amount's so minimal, will be $187. We're hoping just the last quarter, that we can pull the money from.
So you're moving money.
We would move money from the sale of the old equipment to cover that minimal cost for the remainder of the year. And then next year it'd be $750.
Yeah, for one time there, back when Christian was chairman of finance, and we were trying to cut things, he cut one of them out at that time. That was a number of years ago.
Right, but we've also taken the 911 coordinator out of that office. Create a whole other position. I mean, I'm confused as to why there's a lack of time for you guys. And we created those strikers from part-time to full-time. And now we need another guy to come up and I don't agree with this. I like to have Brian or those strikers tell us why they got no time for everything. We took a 911 position out of that office and created a full-time position since the district took that one position out. Why do we, the person?
I know there were four at one point, that was
Right.
before my time, but
Right, it was, but then we also took out 911 and made Billy Striker a full-time guy, or part-time. Since that was taken out.
I know a lot of the trainings are pretty extensive, and I see them going out, from 7 to 10 at night on a Wednesday or Tuesday and trying to take care of this stuff, so I think it's just someone to kind of go over this equipment, make sure that it's safe, and, the tanks are tested every month, and somebody does a scheduled maintenance and service of this.
I think what they've been trying to do, the emergency response team, they're gonna get the rope rescue and the hazmat and the ice rescue, and all under one umbrella.
That's correct.
And then probably they want somebody to kind of oversee that a little bit.
And the annual salary is $750.
That's correct.
But they, I think, so that
I'm confused why they need more help. Is what I'm saying.
Okay,
I need more information.
I'll make a motion. Mr. Greenway makes the motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Number 4, overnight training authorization for Brian Huggins to attend U.S. State Homeland Security Emergency Services Threat Assessment and Management Team Conference.
And this is overnight travel for Brian Myers. After the recent event at the Buffalo Tops, there was the governor put out an executive order to develop a threat assessment team to develop a domestic terrorism prevention plan. So this is permission, right?
Looks like everything's covered under that too, so. Would like to make a motion for this. Mr. Becker, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Anything else for Sylvia?
I have one more thing to add. We just recently, this past week, heard back from an ambulance. And we know that they were going to ask for subsidy. They came back at $775,000. And that does not take care of the billing issue that we currently have.
that's a per year cost.
That is per year. So $775,000 is what we're looking for in order to continuing operation in Wyoming County. So I just want to bring that up. I know that budget is, coming around in the next week or two. Janice had mentioned that we're gonna have to do something. So it's really up to the board right now to decide if we want to run a county operation or if we're going to continue with Monroe. I do know that we had a meeting last week to discuss the EMS cost recovery legislation, and the impacts it might have on other departments. If we did do the county system, I know we can work to reduce that cost to the, or eliminate that cost to both fire departments. So that's just something that you could do a contract with them where we don't charge that right now, but that's a major concern for a lot of departments, so. Fortunately, I hate to bring it up last minute, but they just came back this week, so that's the number we're looking for.
When's your contract out?
We just extended it for a few months. They were looking for money prior to that. They let it, basically, they wouldn't sign a contract. I think it ended in the end of May. They extended that for a few months. So we have a little bit of time, but not much. If we want to budget something for the upcoming year, then we have to look one way or another.
What are they gonna do when they don't give a service? Like currently, the last week, we got 3 calls in Attica for they're contracted at the prison.
Right?
So I wouldn't mind sitting down and talking to them myself. What are they gonna do for us? They give us a contract, got a contract with the prison, they're not covering. How are they gonna cover us for $775,000 when they're not covering their current contracts?
And I know that was a major concern Ryan brought up. What are we gonna do if we are paying for service and we expect 3 ambulances?
And they don't
Or
give it to us.
220, yeah, and that was the thing, how do we go about doing something about it and keeping track of that if they don't provide the service that now we're paying for this. So I know that was a huge concern as to, we go with Monroe and pay them this huge sum of money and they don't provide the service, or if they're out of service or something happens and they're not giving us an ambulance, what are we gonna do?
They're not fulfilling the contract at the prison right now. I know that firsthand, so. Not fulfilling that contract, why are they gonna fulfill this contract?
And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I don't know. Right now, our hands are tied. We're not paying for the service. So when they're not there to provide it,
That's where I'll say, well, we're not paying for it, but we start paying for it, so you can, they're kind of,
Yeah.
sit there every time.
I know.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I talked with Brian this morning about this, so $775,000, so my gut says they're losing money, so they need to, so, wait, I said, Brian, please bring this up because when you presented the numbers, you said there might be some levy to get started, so upfront cost, but it probably should shake out pretty levy neutral. I didn't believe that 3 years ago, I didn't believe that last year, and I still don't believe it, especially when Monroe's asking for $775,000 to service county. I don't think our payer mix, I don't know, I just don't think our payer mix can support it, and I think we know it, we just don't know where we're not gonna see it. So, because the budgets are due, the 11th, I think, I'm thinking, we need to come up with a plan. We need to decide what we're gonna do. We've only got a couple more months on this Monroe thing. Are we going to, I mean, at some point, we're gonna put $750,000. That's a big jump just for one program. And we've talked about a lot of things in the last 3 months. So I guess I'm wondering, what at some point, a decision needs to be made. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna move forward and do, get a budget together and get this rolling? Or are we not? I think Brian said he was calling, is there another agency out there he was gonna get a quote from, maybe
Mercy.
Mercy.
And I want to say he said something about 300,000.
I know that at one point, Arcade had reached out and looked to see what it would cost, and I wanna say It wasn't even a 24-hour service and they were asking for 330. So
Well, what's the cost of the period now?
$100,000, that's what we budget. You know, we've been through this, you know, and now we have control of it. That's what I like about this part about the county do it. We have control over it. So I'm in favor of the system that Ryan proposed last month about purchasing some ambulances, hiring some people, going that way. It doesn't, it costs us, sure, it's a matter of public safety. You know, I mean, we put ours into service after the other one, and it was in service maybe about 6 months. We had a baby choke it. They were there in 2 minutes, saved that baby's life. I use that every time as an example. What's it worth? You know?
Jim, what do you pay towards that? What's your salary towards fire service?
For the ambulance
I'm
service,
sorry, the ambulance.
$100,000.
It
And
used to be more.
But you're not paying big money, like a full-time, salary to EMT.
we pay them by the hour. We pay the EMTs, I think they get 14, the director gets 15, 15.50, and then the drivers get paid, well, usually there's a daytime driver, they get 13 an hour. And then the drivers that stay at home, they get so much per call. And the call takes about an hour, so they get like $13 for that call.
How many calls you run?
750 to 800. And, you know, if we, like a year ago, we came out pretty good because we got that PPP money twice. You know, we could use that for labor, but, you know, we have to put some money in. Sometimes we get the money back from we use the PAB for our billing. Sometimes we get the money, sometimes it comes in slow, then we have to subsidize it for that month to pay the bills. You know, the biggest killer out is insurance. You know, we have to pay our own workman's comp. You know, we have to pay insurance on the building, the ambulance and things like that. That adds up,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Is that included in the $100,000?
Yep. And what they get when we charge when we go out.
How did Moon ambulance before you took over the fire department?
No, it was very emergency ambulance. They were not.
You had ambulance service.
Yeah, and they came to us and they said, you know, we're not making it, you know, we need some bigger subsidies. So we thought it was better for the town to do it because then we could, if we had to use tax money, we're taxing everybody where the village couldn't do it. And then we found out that they hadn't paid the workman's comp in 18 months. We went up and pulled the keys, says you're done. And then we paid Monroe for a period of time till we got established with we took over their ambulances, we replaced both of those ambulances.
So your Perry Center Fire Department didn't have an EMS?
No.
So like if our cable, we were to do that, we've already, you know, in order to get it up and rolling, we still got the volunteers
Right.
to hold it together until the full-time people went.
Yeah.
You know, we're ready to buy, well, we're on track line manuals. Last one was 210,000, like 260,000 now. Yeah.
Much better fancy ones. Last one I bought was 85,000. Of course, we smashed it twice in a year.
Brand new.
Brand new transit van, yeah.
When you buy it?
Gorman's and Alma.
Never went.
When? April 21. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we got one box ambulance and they like a box ambulance and they said we can replace that one, but that one we bought from Kylaville. It was 2003. We paid $12,000 for it. We had to put a little money in it here and there.
Sure.
Other one, we got an accident in March.
I know.
Tom just called me this week, so we finally got the door to fix it. We've been down for one ambulance.
Can't find a door.
Yeah, they finally got the door. He said it's gonna be a couple weeks before they get it together.
So I guess we're looking for some direction for the budget.
I was just gonna say, is this something that we should discuss in finance meeting, our next finance meeting, or? Because we're not gonna get a meeting in the whole, in August, so maybe we
She
should.
pretty much had the numbers, did you, Sylvia, from that?
I did. I just start here. I don't necessarily see it as moneymakers, but I don't see it costing the county anywhere near some. Because we have the hospital transfers that really work in our favor, so we're gonna take those over. The transfers are really really good money maker and they're guaranteed money, so.
But like I said, it's a matter of public safety to provide this.
Absolutely, I can agree with you on that.
Yes.
Even the transfers sit and wait because they know it's a guaranteed transfer. You know,
Yeah.
they'll take something else. It's first.
They'll definitely take, you know, the transfers. I mean, they're just guaranteed, they're pre-approved by the insurance, it's money that's there, that.
We had a call this week from some people that live in a different town, and the lady wanted to get transported, and Monroe was, now we want to do it because you've used up all your insurance, so it's got to be private pay. Monroe didn't want to do it, so they called us, asked us to do it, and we told them we couldn't do it because we didn't have their own ambulance service.
So Janice, one way or the other, we're gonna have to pay for this next year, whether it's in-house or through Monroe Ambulance or some other service. So my thought is to instruct Brian and Sylvia to put something in their 2023 budget so that it can be reviewed when the supervisors start reviewing the budget. That would be my thought, to get the ball rolling.
It's the same.
I mean, we gotta put something on divided, right? I mean, that's what we have to put in.
We can always change it, but.
Oh, you gotta get it, you gotta get it there.
That's what I'm saying, put it in.
One way or the other, you're paying for it, so.
By the time we get around to doing it, November, December, we'll have a little better look at that.
It's gotta be there.
That's what I did, you know, when we put that $100,000, we guessed at it, you know, at the end of the year, you know, sometimes we have $25,000, $30,000 left in it that we didn't.
I will say for Livingston County, they went to their own service and they had said about the same $100,000. So that's been the last few years. So if that's just a number to, you know, when I look at the numbers, it's hard to say. I mean, you're looking at what insurance the payer makes, what hospital they're going to, how many miles you're accounting for. I mean, it's a big number and but I mean, I don't see it costing us $775,000 to do it, and that is running 3 ambulances, the projections that I've done, so when you don't have somebody at Attica, I mean, I know they're contracted with Monroe right now, but if that's something we have that additional service to be able to provide that going forward if needed, because right now they're not running those, they're running 2 ambulances in Flycard. Flycard does know that when we have a call it.
That might make a difference. Either way we go out Arcade, whether we go to Warsaw or Springville, it's 25 miles to Warsaw, 24 miles to Springville, the fire hall. And if you gotta go to Buffalo, it's 40. More, depending on where you're going.
Bill told me, he talked to the guy in Allegheny County, what they spent for fuel in the last month or something was huge, you know.
Well, yeah, that's another, I mean, now, we're gonna be paying more per hour or more for more hours because it's taking longer to get there. You know, you're just down the hill, Barry or something.
Yeah. But
And then.
I tell you this, and not take away from Becky, but if it wasn't for Monroe, they'd really be in trouble with Warsaw. You know, but they have a lot of calls, you know, and just can't rely on volunteers to do
We've been talking about this for years.
Yes.
Just sneak up on us today.
Yes.
We pay Monroe, contract with Monroe Medic gets on our ambulance, we get a bill for $250. And we pay it.
Yeah.
And then that is transferred on to PAB in the bill that's submitted for their insurance.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
The Monroe billing thing, are they still doing their own billing?
No. I think
They
PAB does.
currently are, we are supposed to.
We're
be
doing,
we
we're
don't-
supposed to be.
We are supposed to be, through the state's eyes, we are supposed to be doing the billing.
Right.
This $775,000 does not even address that issue.
That was my question, because we're gonna have to
So that-
have money for that.
So we've brought that up today, that we haven't heard back, but how are we still going to address the issue of the money's supposed to go through the county? If we're doing the billing, how's that workflow gonna work? How are we gonna be able to make sure that our numbers match up to their numbers? How are we gonna make sure that the money's coming in? Who's doing that? I mean, we've talked with Janice, we've talked to the treasurer's office, that's still a major issue. Obviously, if the county ran their own operation, we would contract with PAB. They've already said that the ESO, what we pay for electronic PCRs, they would cover that cost, so that would be about $6,000, so they said that if we work with them, they would cover that for us, so that would get rid of that billing issue that right now the state sees as a major problem.
We had this conversation last month, fire meeting in our team, because the village is exploring going with part-time.
Yeah.
And my question was, we've got a building department in the hospital, they have trouble, getting reimbursed for treatments. I said, who's gonna do this? Well, the village is gonna, and from what I understand, you know, Sylvia, they're gonna hire a third-party administrator. Okay, but I mean, you got, when you do these forms for insurance, everything has got to be dead out. Right, Lou? I mean, you
or you're
work
denied.
constantly, you know, because the insurance company or Medicaid or Medicare kicks it back. And then somebody's, in the meantime, the bills have to be paid while you're waiting for the reimbursement. And you know that.
This PAV charges so much per PCR.
Yeah.
So I forget, it was $38,
I
28,
believe
38,
it was 32,
something like that, yeah. That's,
and they have,
and they bill you every month.
And this, I mean, this, once again, EMT shouldn't have to be doing all this paperwork because they got to be an expert, not only, saving somebody's life, but now you got to fill out the forms right, just right, so the insurance reimbursement comes back.
For $14 an hour.
Yeah,
Well, I think they fill out the PCR, which they have to anyways, patient care report, and that's what's sent up to PAV. And I think they fill out the insurance information.
So
you
you,
got to experience with it.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
All right.
so you made a statement about Livingston County, they figured $100,000 for the whole county.
Again, the salaries and the costs and stuff like that should be mostly reimbursed by the insurance company. And then from there, it's an additional cost to
Well,
us.
that's a whole other side of it. Not only the insurance company's kicking it back, when they do pay, they pay the individual, the patient. It's in the checks of the patient, then you gotta get the money out of the patient. That's Medicare does that too, right? Or Medicaid?
Most of that, but usually insurance companies will send it to the person. And we've tried to get legislation through, so they put two names on it or something. Once in a while, we'll get, a person will come in with a check, say, gee, I think this is yours. Probably not all of them, we don't know. And you get a lot of calls, you're only gonna get paid on 75% at the best of what you do. You only get for fire calls and all these, lifting assistant ones, they gotta take 2 sets of vitals in order to charge, and they only charge minimal for that. It's like you said last month, you got Monroe, they ain't making it, Mercy's not making it, without being subsidized. This was not gonna make it unless it's subsidizing.
Well, you said it's public safety. What are we gonna do?
Yep.
It's the world we live in now.
I think a lot of this big number, they obviously have quite a bit of overhead. They have their CEOs, CFOs, all these people working on this and they're paying, we're paying for that. So it's just a matter of which way. We're okay either way, but we just need to have some direction on where to start.
So we're trying to put that $775,000 into the fund and then start with that, I guess. Right, Janice, is that what you want?
So,
That's what,
That would be a start. Jumping on. Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sylvia.
By the way, the 16 people listed as our according to NICEP.
16?
Yeah, they have 2 different spots, crew on its way. This one's 13, and that one's 3.
Not too, and I'll send you the things. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna need this. I have it in my.
yeah.
Any questions?
I got over an inch in 20 minutes.
About 6 times. Get the wind up.
I didn't see wind in my house, but then I was in the garage, and doors were open. It was coming down hard. I don't.
Generator start.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Just, there's been a little, we're not quite up to where we were with the activities we were last year. But last year was our best year of our. Well, the interest rate and stuff, the way they're flying and fuel, we're just, it's staying steady, but it's not for the most.
Any questions on the monthly report? Okay, move on to the munis income statement.
Yes, there too, we have a question on that.
Okay, number 3, property maintenance task force.
Just give you a highlight of a few of the items that we're handling. We've got the one, and I did some of the photos that I showed you when I did that PowerPoint, but we got the one down in Genesee Falls that we're still tackling now. We're moving on to our next step in the violation proceedings on that, which I'll send them over to Luann, so keep going on that.
Thank you.
How they're going to proceed. One up here on 28 area, we're going to be starting on that one very shortly. There's still one down in the village Wyoming there, in the village, the old Campbell Pub area. We're going to move to the next phase of violation on that. And we have village area to the old agri facility and self-storage facility there too. So those are the ones that we're proceeding on right now. The ones that the next item, we have a couple of collections. One in Georgia, town of Kingsville. These have already been done, the file with stuff, already been done. We're just waiting, we're in general, instead of waiting to close and do collections on them. I'm hoping we're gonna be able to do that this year. So we got one in Georgia over 26,000, another one in Village area 56,000. So we'll see how collections are going.
Any questions on those? Number 5, appropriation.
The appropriation is for the full-time creation of the fire safety inspector. When we move to do that, after losing 4 part-time guys, so that's appropriation to cover the cost.
You have somebody in that position now.
Yes.
I'll move that.
Ms. Roberts makes the motion. All in favor? Opposed?
The person that's in there now, Brian, is it's actually Mike Cook, actually one of our fire coordinators too down. So.
Everybody just one time.
Yeah, we lost Gary off, we hired for the second time. And then we had 3 of the health department guys doing some of our fire safety inspections too. So I had 4 part-time people filling in for that, and health department reorganized, they didn't fill that for us anymore. Gary retired, so I had to go to a full-time position.
Are you gonna might do buildings and codes eventually, or?
Yes.
You can help out with that?
Yeah, he's helped out with that too. So although his title is fire safety inspector, which he's been doing a lot of, if back on that, I guess I could have one of those things. So if you look on the report, and you look across the top over there, you'll see I actually have an item line for fire safety inspections. So basically, we were averaging around 30 to 40 inspections a month. And since Mike started, I'm averaging 60 to 80 a month. So but we're really picking back up to where we need to be. So he's been really busy on it. He's finishing up his 3rd code class. Now, after he gets this 3rd one done and out of the way, he'll actually be certified as a building safety inspector. And then he'll have 3 more courses to do after that before he's certified as a code official. So, good.
Anything else for Don?
Don, just kind of garbage. Understand the village is putting an ordinance on, you can't put your totes out at certain times, you do.
So I know Jim had touched on that a little bit yesterday when he was here, Jim Bragg, but, so what the village of Perry did is if you leave your trash out too long, or you put it out too early, they actually passed an ordinance in the village of Perry, where they actually can collect your garbage and charge it back to you. So there has been a case recently where the bulk did not get picked up. No fault of the homeowner, it was fault of waste management. It didn't get picked up and it sat there for over 48 hours. They posted the door hanger on their door, which gives you 24 hours to remove it from the curb. They didn't, so the village picked it up and charged them for it.
If they don't pay, they'll probably add it to the village taxes.
Yes. Yes.
Gotta pay for that Silver Lake trailer.
So the other thing, the other thing you guys talk about, we built a lot of stuff into the curbside collection contract for performance. Bonding and so forth. So if we get to the point where we have a meeting with them, because I wrote the contract and rewrote it 16 times before we adopted the entire thing, but there's a lot of language and a lot of teeth in that contract. If it continues on and they're not meeting their obligations, by all means, we got enough built in the contract where we can, negotiate some stuff.
Jen and I had a conversation this morning, she said that with the contract, and she's reviewing that business.
Yes, we're gonna schedule a meeting back now pretty soon. Yeah.
Hopefully Monday.
Yeah, that's good. Sooner the better.
I would like to say.
At some point, hopefully they figure this out. I don't. So, but in the meantime, we're picking away with the phone calls and whatever we need to do. But Pat's been trying, I know he's trying to cover for what's going on with the company. I mean, it literally has been going out there with a pickup truck at night on his own to try and cover for whatever he has, and you've all seen it. He's trying to do the best job he possibly can. He's one guy, so. I don't know, we gotta figure out, the garbage end has been good, and it's kind of super hit and miss right now. They may have to change some ideas and go back to more of a, maybe twice a month, or go back to every week as opposed to once a month, and have so much of it there. So,
See a lot of stuff.
it's a little bit, you gotta figure it out.
And they have vision a new way.
And so one of the other things that we're working on behind it, right, so what happens if, right? We lived through the last nightmare, when Newway walks in and said, we're done. And we're done today, we're not done next week, we're done now. So we had to start picking up the phone, start calling around to every single organization that possibly could even consider doing a contract with our county. And then how fast could they react? Well, Waste Management really was the only one that could react that much, and everybody else was 6 times the cost. Thus, we went on. And it's been good. Our nomination transfer hasn't been as good as we'd like it to be. But we're going to make phone calls, and we're trying to find out that if something does happen, right, we don't want to get caught in that situation again, who else could bid on this contract, or who else could help us? So we're checking into some other avenues lightly right now, but just so we don't get caught. It's happened once and say, well, why do we again? We'll see. Try to be prepared.
But they must have invested a lot of money.
They did invest a tremendous amount of money to do it. So I would hope they want it to be successful as we.
Certainly a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's fast. When the truck does get there, it's fast.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Thank you, Don.
Everybody, I'm sure all of us heard things about the garbage pickup. I had one guy the other day stuck for another sluice pipe on them, poured some gravel over it, so he had spots put. His is garbage. Everybody's got to come up with their own deal to be able to put it out there on the side of the road.
And winter's coming.
Yeah, we really need your help.
I hope so.
Hey, John, when New Way backed away, everybody was willing to pay anything, to have garbage picked up.
Oh, absolutely,
At Christmas.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And all that stuff was, they had a big snowstorm, but it was jammed into the snow banks, froze in,
Yeah,
blowing all over.
I would.
Oh, yeah.
So there was no complaint about what it cost that.
No, didn't matter. Right, that didn't matter, right? Yeah, okay, whatever.
Okay, thanks, Don.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome, Joe. How are you? Number one, overnight travel authorization.
This is where I new hires go and get firearms training. He's only been with us a week or I mean, a month. But this is the election to do in January, so 4 to 3 weeks. And Cheryl, I have a curriculum. I emailed it to you, but I don't know if you want to copy of this to.
Is that,
It's the curriculum, it doesn't
oh,
sound.
the agenda, it was just something that,
Yeah,
it was,
apparently the ones that are doing the agenda aren't there, so that's the curriculum, so.
that works. Okay. We're going to make a motion for this. Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke makes a motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Number two, overnight travel authorization for John Killer.
And in addition to your one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
So,
carried. Anything else? No. Okay, nice seeing you. Thank you. Norm, you're next. Oh, boy.
yeah, we got. I took care of it.
I'm sure.
So,
How are you?
as well as we expected.
I'm good. And number one is professional service contract with New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
And this is actually last year's, so it's already scheduled to it. But again, this is the same $186,000 we received last day. It covers the county's obligation on parole representation. And, the only county really that is getting 100% of the cost of this program. Other counties are getting anywhere from nothing to 30 or 40%, 40 cents on the dollar.
So this is what, do you have a contract for this year then?
Actually, it's on the way. It's been approved, and this year's contract that we're waiting for that. So the next time you see me, probably I'll be asking you to sign this year's contract. Same amount. The process, I think we talked about last time, but the process was very different this year. Because when the budget passed, instead of earmarking $600,000 or 31% of Wyoming County, which has been happening in the past decade under Gallivan and Bolton Forum, this one had something $1.4 million, but it covered a whole bunch of stuff, and it was to be divided at some point later on by the Senate. And it turns out that the Senate then just went right back to last year's breakdown and gave us the 186. So we're in the same boat. It's a good vote.
Okay, someone like to make a motion for this one? Ms. Roberts makes a motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Number two, appropriation.
This is an appropriation for what was distribution 12 of the money we have been receiving on a regular basis. These are all 3-year contracts that overlap. So actually we just got the approval of 13 that'll take the place of 10. But it's a continuing process so that every 3 years it's getting renewed as the other one disappears. Again, this is all state money.
Would like to make a motion for this. Mr. Kayla, all in favor? Opposed, carried.
I have two things that are, just, I think that's the end of it. My head's up for this week. I talked to some of you about this. Number one, I once, part of it, when they were talking about the staff on jail. And I think Doug, when you talked about this, think about 30 years in the future, so we were really going. But one of the things I've been talking to Sheriff Rudolph about, and I talked to Dave about it, is moving away from these midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning arraignments, where you have law enforcement on the road, waiting for attorneys to show up, et cetera, and moving to what many counties have done, and that is a centralized arraignment plan. And the counties like us that have a similar situations have basically used the jail as a place to do arraignments. Usually it's something like 8:30 in the morning and 8:30 at night. So that if someone gets picked up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not calling the judge, you're not calling the attorney, you're not getting the DA's office involved. It'll be, the point is to hold them in the detention cell and do all the arraignments again, 1 in the morning, 1 at night, so at least no more than 12 hours separating any arraignments. To do that effectively, the counties, including all the counties around us, are using the jail as a place to hold people. It's the most convenient, obviously takes care of public safety. And you know, there's a whole process, and I presented this to the magistrates and to all law enforcement. And by the way, the judges that show up in these things are on a rotating basis, so all 20 or so judges can get involved, and they get paid extra if they're leading their bench to do these arraignments. It saves us a lot of grief in that we don't have to staff as much for counsel at first appearance because of the burnouts 2 o'clock in the morning. So because we would just have someone there at 8:30 in the morning, 8:30 at night, takes care of it. The cost to the county is really, I don't think the cells are a major aspect of it, as was available for, et cetera, but it's really supervision and the cost, I think, of probably hiring those full-time deputies. So there is a major cost factor. I don't know if there's any money available throughout the state to do this, but if you're looking down the road and if you're doing some work on the jail now, and I talked to David about this, we should think about moving towards the ability to do centralized arraignments in the plan. That's number one. Number two, the other good news, speaking of money, is that, as many of you know, the assigned counsel plan, that is the attorneys that represent people when we cannot because of a conflict, are private attorneys paid for under county law. And that's an ever increasing part of the cost of indigent defense in all counties. The going rate now for the attorneys that handle this stuff is $70 an hour. And in many parts of the state, that is not even a break-even point of what it costs to run an office, because these people, they pay their own health insurance, they pay their own secretaries. So the net on that is it's a loser, especially if you're downstate. So that people are dropping off these panels like flies, and it's getting impossible to find attorneys willing to do it at that rate. Besides legislation and lobbying for the past 4 years to get the rates increased to about 150 an hour, a lawsuit was started downstate against all 5 boroughs. And the judge downstate 2 days ago issued a temporary restraining order increasing the assigned counsel rates across the board, misdemeanors, felonies, family court, to $158 an hour. The negotiations with the governor's office to get this as part of legislation stalled when the governor refused to, number one, do a COLA on this, when that's go back to legislature every 20 years. And number two, the governor was not inclined to make this difference in pay a state cost, thus being an unfunded mandate, which will impact this county significantly and every other county in the state. So that's why the case was never resolved in litigation and why the legislation never went through. I'm sure NISAC is involved in very much lobbying for this not being this an unfunded mandate. The theory right now is that since the state was a party to this lawsuit, that $158 an hour applies statewide. It hasn't been resolved yet, but that is what the theory is among those practitioners that are litigating this. That means that our costs in public defense for those cases not handled by my office will double. And that's something that you should be aware of. You should deal with NISAC and keep pushing for this thing, so it's not an unfunded mandate. And certainly the rate's gonna go up to that level. The question is who's paying for it. And our position is that in public defense law, the defense law generally maintains strongly that this has to be a state requirement, not an unfunded mandate for the counties. So that's my heads up for the bright future ahead of us. By the way, the governor, I think the governor thinks that because of the windfall to the counties, because of the pandemic, and federal money and everybody's flush, that the county should pay for it. That's short-sighted, because that money, as you know, will not be there next year, year after. So, get on your lobbying hats and all we've got to get this thing rolling in the right direction, or otherwise it's going to impact our tax levy significantly. That's my good news today. Thank you.
Did we use for all of your animals?
No. No, well, the point is this, we have always said, there's a lot of money that goes to the assigned council. And what every assigned council program has been doing, not necessarily here, but let's say in Erie County, is they are top heavy. They're using the money to get computers, equipment, software, and administrators. Because you cannot increase the money to the assigned council lawyers, because that's a legislative act. So the fee is set by the legislature under county law. And that's why Earl Herring says you can't use that money for the attorneys. So it's weird, but you know, every year I have to sit down with whether it was Wujek or Jen and say, okay, what do you guys need for the assigned counsel program? I can't pay your lawyers, but I can, you know, contracts for investigators, contracts for social workers. Because otherwise, the assigned lawyer, they needed, let's say, an investigator on a case, never signed. They would have to go to the county judge and get an order, and it would come out of the county tax money to pay that investigator. But under Earl Herring, the assigned counsel program can hire investigators, can hire social workers. So it is state money that can offset what could be a cost to the county for expert witnesses, investigators, etc. But
I don't think we've spent much of that.
well, there's very little use of that. Okay, first of all, very few cases go to trial because we have such a reasonable district attorney's office. Most of them, but okay. But anyway, we've been dealing with ILS on this since it started. ILS, which is Indigent Legal Services, that's where Earl Herring money comes from. Would love to do that because it lifts everybody up. However, it cannot. It's a legislative priority. It's a legislative act that can increase the salaries and nothing else. Except the court order. So, Mr.
What does the county pay for 18 now?
90 and 60. Cap of 4,400 on penalties. I don't know the cap. I don't have that, but Jack.
On a paper, right?
I'm just curious how much it counts.
Yeah, it's gone up. In fact, it was just like a $20,000 or $30,000 appropriation they needed to cover their bills.
Cost to the taxpayers is about $150,000, so double that.
So,
Yes, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Effman for his extreme generosity in loaning his ink cartridge to me yesterday. I truly appreciate that. I know it took him off guard.
what do you mean? I was not alone. IT came in, I'm on the phone, and all of a sudden they're ripping apart my copy. They said, you know, the county executive, she needs a new cartridge.
I just wanted to thank you for it.
Oh, okay.
Our office.
You don't need those copies. We don't need to Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Vince.
Good luck. I'll watch.
Hello. Hello. How are you? Grant board.
First item is the Office of Victim Services grant, basically. It's approximately $95,000 for 3 years. We've gotten this grant in our office, I want to say, for the last 2 decades. primarily funds the crime victim advocate. So. all that stuff.
Someone like to make the motion? Mr. Britt makes the motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Okay, number two, another grant application.
The second grant is basically the state actually, I never thought the state would come where they would actually provide money to try to offset the discovery changes, but apparently they did. And this is $142,454 to help offset basically the changes in discovery. Discovery laws, obviously, as you know, our office expanded 2 additional people once the discovery laws change, and this is to try to offset that.
Sort of a $40 million appropriation to DAs for the state. That's a total.
Is this some money we took from the Manhattan County DA's office? I don't see it took, because that's a.
I don't know if they shifted it around, but the basic thing was the DAs were complaining. It's on both sides. The discovery, the blessings and curses of discovery is that we're watching 6 hours of video for every DUI arrest. And so he's taking care of it now. But you know, the time involved and also the processing of this material and the story of it. It's been a significant impact on all of our offices on both sides. And while no additional money was given to the defense center, this because we get the engagement. The DA's office got the DA's association lobby for received $40 million across the board. I don't know how it was divided.
We have to gather a lot more information. We had that presentation a few years ago on the things we have to do. So that's also a offset that cost.
Need a motion?
Sorry, just motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. And number three, permission to move the position of crime victim coordinator from Schedule G to Schedule S.
Yes, Colleen Marvel has basically made that under Schedule G. As far as I know, since she started about 10 or 12 years ago with the DA's office. We reached out, Mr. G reached out to Janice and reached out to HR, who I understand was from, agreed the position should be moved to a Schedule S from Schedule G. Schedule G is more designed for short-term funding sources. We've had this funding source, like I said, nonstop for 20 years. We don't anticipate any change to the county tax bill by changing it from Schedule G to Schedule S next year.
So what does it do? Change it from G to S? Is it better benefits or not?
It's better benefits. It basically changes. I think she's the only one of the older generation in our office that still has to pay a certain amount for healthcare and stuff like that. Or the older people in the office, which I know don't have to do that. So it's better benefits from our perspective. We don't, as I said, we don't anticipate any change at least next year that it would be any tax, local tax money. We'll basically be to a state grant. And this grant has been consistently, like I said, we've gotten a grant for at least the 21 years I've been at the DA's office, we've gotten a grant every year.
I think it'd be cool, the vacation and sick accrual is a little bit more.
I'm sorry?
I think the vacation and sick accrual is a little bit more than the union. What Schedule G gets, I should say. So.
Because G follows
The union.
the union, yeah, and CSE or Schedule S is a little better. Depending on when she was hired.
And mostly to the benefit of the employee with respect to vacation days, sick days. Everything across the board, all the benefits are significantly increased. And the health insurance aspect is the big one. So I presume she comes in and paying what, 10%?
I was gonna say it depends on when she was hired, so.
I think she gets 20.
Yeah.
Not positive, but I think she gets 20. Yeah, just from a fairness perspective, she's the only Schedule G in her office, everybody else is Schedule S.
So here's probably a dumb question, but we can pay a Schedule S with grant money?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
we do it all. So we usually, probably that got put as a grant position when way back when it started, it just kind of stayed there because it's grant. But
Sure.
there's a lot of departments that the whole person is covered by a grant. but it's different grants and they move them around and it's funding that they always have. It's just, like something like the COVID grants and these people who are, you know, hired for that and they're gonna go away once that COVID grant goes away at some point, 2023. You know, it's good to keep those, and that's not gonna be forever, that COVID money. Or, you know, the short-term grants for a particular process. Focus.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Someone like to make a motion for this one? Mr. Brick makes the motion. All in favor? Aye. Oh, scary. Any announcements?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business to come forward? And we are adjourned.